Thank you all. You may be seated. Good afternoon. Welcome back. Thank you for your patience this afternoon. We're going to get going. State, call your first witness.
State calls Agent Kolos to the stand.
You may proceed.
Could you introduce yourself to the jury and spell your last name for the court reporter?
Sure. My name is Special Agent Daniel Kolos with the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Last name is Kolos.
And what do you do for a living?
I am a Special Agent with the FBI. I'm currently assigned to the Miami Division, and I investigate criminal matters relating to cybercrime, crimes against children, and healthcare fraud.
And as a agent or special agent with the FBI, sometimes you have to do duties of collecting DNA samples or swabs from individuals?
Correct. I'm a member of the evidence response team, and as part of being in that team, you're trained on how to handle evidence, and part of that is DNA collection and handling. So yes, we are trained. I am trained.
And so that evidence response team, is that ERT for short?
Yes.
And so in this case in particular, on or about September 10th of 2021, did you collect a DNA sample from an individual named Jeremy Jarvis?
Yes, I did.
And could you explain to the jury how you did that?
Sure. Jeremy met me at the Miami field office, and we took a DNA swab. You wear gloves. There's two Q-tip-like swabs that you do in each side of the mouth. You package that in the packaging that the DNA comes in. You tape it with evidence, and then myself submitted it to the evidence control room in the Miami office. And then after that, I submit a lead to the FBI laboratory in Quantico, and the DNA gets shipped to the lab.
And then an analyst at the lab in Quantico, is that who analyzes it later?
Correct. In the field, we only deal with collection. We don't do any forensic analysis or any DNA analysis in the field. That's all in the lab in Quantico.
And after that, did you have any other contact with this case?
The only other contact is I was in charge of returning the remains to the family in Miami.
Absolutely.
No question.
They should be excused.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Riley. We step down. All right, next witness.
They will call Special Agent Cobble to the stand.
The witness has been sworn. You may proceed.
Could you introduce yourself to the jury and spell your last name for the court reporter?
Sure, my name is Special Agent Christine Cobble. The last name is spelled C-O-B as in boy, L-E.
And what do you do for the...
I'm a Special Agent for the FBI.
And at the time in 2021, in August, where were you stationed at?
Denver, Colorado.
And were you, as a special agent with the Federal Bureau of Investigation, or FBI, did you have duties on the ERT, or evidence response team?
Yes, I did.
And could you explain to the jury what the evidence response team is and what your duties were as a member of that team?
Sure. The evidence response team is a collateral duty for most agents and support personnel that are selected to participate. My role at the time of this investigation, and in this particular case, was I was helping find and collect evidence. At the time, I'd been an ERT member for approximately 22 years.
Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
With defense. May I approach, Judge?
Yes.
And as a member of the ERT team, did you go out to the scene where the remains were recovered?
Yes, I did.
And out there, did you assist in evidence collection?
Yes, I did.
Members, witness, Judge?
Yes.
Showing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit number 33. Do you recognize this image?
Yes, I do.
And what is it an image of?
This image depicts the hillside on which we found the remains on August 25th, 2021. It shows one of my teammates either descending or ascending on a rope the hillside down to where the remains were located.
And do you know the person who's in that photo?
I believe I do, but it's a little unclear who that is.
That's not yourself, though.
It's not me.
But that is a true and correct, that is a fair and accurate depiction of the hillside where the remains were found.
Yes, it is.
State moves to admit what's been marked as State's Exhibit 33 into evidence.
Judge, may I approach real brief?
I have 23 admitted already.
33.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No further objections, Your Honor.
Right.
Raise the prior objections.
Yes, the objections are overruled, 33 is admitted.
Permission to publish, State?
And Your Honor, so I don't have to interrupt under 103 Bravo. I just rely on that rule, right?
you're asking for a running objection on all these photos
Correct.
as well? Okay.
Thank you.
Objections to 33 is overruled, 33 is admitted.
So is this the area?
Yes, it is.
And we see there's a rope that's assisting one of your team members to go down this area?
That's correct.
And was one of your other duties as a member of ERT to collect a DNA sample from Nicole Aguilar?
Yes, it was.
And did you do that?
I did.
And could you explain to the jury how you did that and what you did with the sample after?
Sure. That process is something that we refer to as collecting a buccal swab. Buccal refers to mouth or cheek. So we use a sterile swab or multiple swabs while wearing gloves, of course, to swab the inside of an individual's cheek or cheeks. We package up that swab and then submit it into our evidence, and then it is subsequently sent to our laboratory for examination or comparison in terms of DNA.
And while you were at the scene as a member of ERT, did you assist members out there in locating evidence, including bones?
Yes, I did.
And did you have to actually dig for bones?
Yes, we had to dig to find bones.
I passed this.
No question, Trevor.
May the agent step down and be excused?
Yes, sir. No
Thank you
further.
very much for your time. State call your next witness.
State calls Analyst Goodwin to the stand. And permission to approach, sir? Permission to approach, sir?
Yes.
May I proceed, Judge?
Yes, the witness has been sworn.
Thank you. Could you introduce yourself to the jury and spell your last name for the court order?
My name is Corey Goodwin. It's spelled Goodwin.
And what do you do for a living?
I am an intelligence analyst with the Denver FBI
And how long have you been an intelligence analyst with the FBI?
since July of 2018, so about 6 years.
And as an analyst with the FBI, are you also a member of the Evidence Response Team, or ERT for short?
Yes,
And in August of 2021, were you a member of that team?
yes I was.
And were you asked to go out to a scene in Colorado off Berthridge Pass?
Yes.
And when you got there, what did you do?
My primary role on the team that day was an evidence collector.
And so, as an evidence collector, did you I guess, could you explain to the jury how someone becomes a member of ERT and what type of training they go through?
Yes. We have to apply to be on the team. We submit an application showing our interest, what background we might have in crime scene investigation. The senior team leader, along with the other team leaders, go through those applications and select members to join the team. As members of the team, we are responsible for documenting evidence, collecting evidence, documenting crime scenes, and performing basic forensic examinations.
And at this scene in August of 2021, did you come across human remains?
Yes.
In what condition were the remains?
The remains were mostly skeletalized at this time.
And as a member of ERT, was it your duty to assist other agents and analysts at the scene in collecting the bones of those remains?
Yes.
Did you also observe water jugs at the scene?
Yes.
Do you recall about how many?
There were 3 on the scene.
Have you had training in the collection of pupa maggots from the remains from human remains?
Yes. I took a training in June of 2020 on collection and preservation of entomological evidence. In addition, I attended a human remains recovery training in June of 2021, where we learned additional guidelines for preserving and collecting entomological evidence, as well as the opportunity to practice collecting said evidence.
Was entomological evidence collected in this case on these remains?
Yes.
And were those, was that evidence of entomology then sent to a Dr. Tom Berlin and Casey Flint in Texas?
Yes.
Could you explain to the jury, when approaching human remains that has entomological evidence, how you go about collecting that and what's the process?
Yes. So we document information about the scene, time, date, weather conditions, location, to go back and look at actual temperatures. We then will collect the insect activity and preserve it in its current state. If there are larvae present, we will collect some of that and rear it to adulthood in order to send to the lab for further examination.
Ms. Goodwin, can I ask you to lean into your mic?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem, defense judge?
Yes. Yes, I believe you marked 34 and 35, correct?
That's correct, Judge.
Okay. Go ahead.
Showing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 34 and 35. Do you recognize these?
Yes,
What are they?
they are images from the crime scene, or from the human remains recovery scene.
And are they fair and accurate depiction of a portion of the crime scene as you observed it in August of 2021 off North Birchwood Pass in Colorado?
Yes,
Do these images show the water jugs in them?
yes, it shows one of the water jugs.
Does it also show the human remains in the photos?
Yes,
Your Honor, State moves to admit what's been marked as State's Exhibit 34 and State's Exhibit 35 into evidence.
The defense has already stated their objection for the record. At this time, the objections are overruled. 34 and 35 are admitted.
I think we have run objections, Judge Run.
Yes, sir.
And the State will inform the court that the images are graphic in nature and will ask the court for permission to publish them to the jury.
Yes, you can publish them, jurors. Please know that the state will publish some graphic images.
So going down, we saw on State's Exhibit, may I have permission to approach, Judge?
Yes.
What's already been admitted is State's Exhibit 33. Was it a pretty steep area?
yes,
And
yes,
so to get down there, we see, it looks like one of your colleagues going down
yes.
with a rope.
Yes, we attached some ropes to assist in providing us stability to get down to the scene.
And at this point, I'm going to show State's Exhibit 34. When you got down to the remains, State's Exhibit 34, what did you see?
We found the mostly skeletalized remains of a small individual and a water jug near the remains.
And then State's Exhibit 35, is that a closer image? And in that image, we see the water jug and we can see part of the remains.
Yes,
And, well, to explain to the jury, were the collection of the bugs, the entomological evidence, was that collected on the remains or under the remains? How does that done?
they were collected under the remains. Once the remains were removed, we were able to see some larvae in the ground underneath, and we collected those.
And did you assist in securing the remains back up to the vehicles?
Yes, I assisted in bringing some of the bones up to the vehicle.
That's what Mr.
No question.
You should be excused.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Ms. Goodwin. You are excused. Call your next witness.
They calls Agent Verell. You remember?
Who did you say you're calling?
Verell? Agent
Oh,
Verell?
Verell. I'm sorry.
could you introduce yourself to the jury and spell your last name for the court reporter?
Yes, I'm Supervisory Special Agent Kristen Verell, V as in Victor, A-R-E-L.
And what do you do for the?
I'm a Supervisory Special Agent with the FBI out of Washington, D.C.
Back in August of 2021, where were you assigned?
I was assigned to the Denver Division of the FBI.
And while you were assigned to the Denver Division of the FBI, were you a member of the Evidence Response Team, or ERT for short?
Yes, I was.
And could you explain to the jury what your duties were as you were a member of the ERT team?
Yes, so I assisted in all aspects of our evidence collection on a variety of cases, but my main specialties were on our forensic scan team and our forensic survey team, and so I operated the total station and the Faro scanner.
And so what's a Faro scanner?
So a Faro scanner is a terrestrial LiDAR system, and so it is a device that allows you to map out the scene in 3D space using a laser and a mirror that rotates and collects 360-degree views of the scene or whatever you're trying to map out.
And this scanner, this Faro scanner, is that something that's used often in the investigation in FBI matters?
Yes, so it is used by, I don't know how many of our teams out in the field have it, but it is very commonly used in scene reconstruction, crime scene reconstruction, whether it's accidents. It's also used in engineering situations, construction projects. There's a variety of different uses, but it is definitely, it's been used now for a number of years in the forensic scene.
And could you explain to the jury the accuracy of a Faro scanner?
So a Faro scanner, as I mentioned, it shoots out a laser that reflects off the mirror to collect a series of data points. And so within 10 meters of the device, it is accurate to plus or minus 1 millimeter.
And was a Faro scanner used in August 25th of 2021 out North Berthoud Pass in Colorado at a scene of recovery for human remains?
Yes, it was.
And could you explain to the jury what the scene out there looked like and how you plotted points using that Faro scanner?
Yes, so once I arrived on scene with the rest of the team, we arrived in, we were coming down the highway, down the pass, and there was a big pull-out space, like off the side of the road. So we parked our vehicles, got our equipment ready to go. Our senior team leader had indicated the area that we would be focusing on. And so we gathered our equipment, we went down the side of the mountain, and using a series of ropes to get down the side of the mountain and carry our equipment to position it. And so the device needs to be set on a tripod in order to balance it and level it in order for it to read properly. So we took it down and we started our focus right at the where we found the human remains.
May I personal witness, Judge? Showing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 44, 45, and 46. Do you recognize these images?
Yes, I do.
What are they?
So these are images of the scene that we were just discussing. So image 45 is an image facing north along Route 40 with the mountainside to the right, and then 45 is the opposite direction, so it's facing south along the highway. And then 46 is an image of the same terrain, kind of showing the ropes that we were using and the steepness. of how it was to get down to the scene.
And are those 44, 45, and 46 as state's exhibits, are they fair and accurate depictions of the scene that you went to use the Faro scanner at?
Yes, they were.
At this time, Judge State moves to admit what's been marked as State's Exhibit 44, 45, and 46 into evidence.
We are just saying objection, Tom. We can have a written objection.
44, 45, 46, the objection is overruled. The exhibits are admitted.
Thank you. So we're on the screen, we have what do we see on the screen on State's Exhibit 44?
So, as I mentioned, 44, this is an image of Highway 40 is to the left, and this is facing north, and where those vehicles are parked, those are our equipment vehicles, and those are in that pullout that I described. And then to the right, you can see the side of the mountain where we found the human remains.
So I'll put State's Exhibit 45.
And so that's the same, it's just facing south, looking at that same area to the left. So that little grove of trees is kind of our focal point.
Okay, and so the focal point is there's these, there's quite a bit of trees right there, and there's actually one tree that's sticking out pretty high.
Yes.
Okay. And then State's Exhibit 46.
Yes, so that is another just a detailed image just to show the process by which we had to get down to the scene. But it is the same mountainside. This again is facing north along that the mountain, and that was the area where we entered the scene like from a distance to the side of it. It wasn't right above where we found the human remains. We had to go down and then along a little path that we had created.
And then as you're using this scanner, are you plotting different points of this general area?
Yes.
And could you explain to the jury how you plot a point and what the scanner does in plotting at that point?
Yes, so in order to get a complete picture and an accurate representation of that scene frozen in time, the device is a point of sight device. So that being when the laser gets reflected, it goes out and it touches a point. It cannot see it through a rock or a tree. It cannot see around it. And so it then shoots that information back to the device where it collects and measures that distance. And so it measures the distance on a horizontal axis, a vertical axis, as well as the angle. So you have the X, Y, and Z all accounted for. And so we try to position the device at various different locations in order to get a thorough depiction of the scene. And so one of the things to note when we do these scans as well is that it is unable to see immediately below the device. So if we move it just a little bit in another direction, then we can then collect data on that area below to make sure we get full coverage.
And how long were you stationed in the Denver area for the FBI?
I worked out of the Denver office from February of 2013 to August of 2022.
About how many of those years were you a member of ERT?
All but one, I think. I think I got
So
it.
quite a bit of experience on ERT.
Yes.
And in your experience, have there been other occasions that you had to go through this type of terrain?
Yes, we have done numerous searches in the mountains.
Okay. And so, going back to, well, I'll show you State's Exhibit. May I approach, Judge?
Okay.
So you've had experience going up and down mountains and this type of terrain before yourself?
Yes.
And so, showing State's Exhibit 35, do you recognize, this is admitted, 33. That is, do you recognize this image?
Yes, I do.
It's an image of the descent towards the human remains, is that correct?
It is correct.
Do you know who's in that image?
Yes, that is myself.
Okay.
On scene.
And so, could you explain to the jury why there's these ropes?
We just use it as a safety precaution as we were descending because And then as we were climbing back up, it was a fairly steep terrain. Oftentimes we don't have quite that I would say estimated about 45 degrees. I think there's some calculations that we looked at with our scan data that corroborates that. But yeah, so we had those ropes tied to one of our vehicles to help make sure we could secure our path in.
Where do you tie it on the vehicle?
We have the wench part, the front part of the sturdy part of the truck.
Okay. And so, in order to get down, you're using this rope to get down there?
Yes, sir.
And then what about getting back up?
Yeah, we would pull on the rope and to help provide extra support as we were making our way up, because it was kind of unlevel ground as well. It was like loose rock. It wasn't all settled. I mean, it's pretty dry out there, and it was August, so there's a lot of, you could step and kind of fall a little bit like sand.
Okay. And so that climate at that time in the summertime in Colorado would make that a difficult trek back up.
Yeah, it wasn't the easiest.
And so we talked about, you plot out all these different points with the Verell scanner. What happens with all that data?
So once we collect all of that data, it gets saved onto an SD card inside the device, and then we bring it back to the office and ingest that information into the software. It's called Scene. It's provided by the manufacturer, and in that Scene software, there's enough data collected from the device that then allows the computer to identify which points are the same across the different scans. So then it pieces all of those scans together to make one big picture of the scene.
And in that picture of the scene, is it like a video that you can see?
There's a variety of different products that can be produced after you collect all of the information. So you can do orthographic images that can show you the side, different views. You can do top-down views, side views. There's also fly-throughs, so when you put it together, you can create and direct it to go to focus on different areas and where you want to go inside the scene. You can also do panoramic views because in addition to collecting the points, there are certain settings on there that allows it to actually take photos after. So it'll go through one rotation and collect the data points, and then it'll go through a second rotation where it actually takes photos of the scene as well and splices them together in a panoramic view that allows you to see it then in colorized form.
And what you testified earlier was about the accuracy of it being at what level?
It's within 10 meters of the device. It's accurate to plus or minus 1 millimeter.
And who's Agent DuFrance?
Charles DuFrance is our senior team leader for our evidence response team.
And as a senior team leader, was he the person that compiled this data and created the scenes ago and orthographic image and fly-through?
Yes, I had started the process, but then he refined it and made sure that it was all pieced together properly.
Pass the witness, Judge.
We have no questions.
Agent Verell, you may step down. Thank you for being here. Excuse. State call your next witness. Your next witness, is he the longer witness?
Yes, Judge.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to give you an afternoon break. I do have to finish up some docket matters, and then we'll, is that your last witness for today?
Yes, Your Honor.
And we'll finish up for today. So you remain under the same instructions. Thank you.
All right for the jury?
proceeding. State call your next witness.
Agent Charles DuFrance.
Yes, sir.
The witness has been sworn. You may proceed.
Good afternoon. Would you please state your name and introduce yourself to the jury?
My name is Charles S. DuFrance. I'm a special agent with the Federal Bureau of Investigation stationed in Denver, Colorado.
Now, Special Agent DuFrance, can you give us some background on how you got into the FBI?
I entered the FBI after my undergraduate degree, and I first worked in the Firearms Toolmarks Unit of the FBI laboratory as a physical science technician and then a physical scientist, and became a firearms toolmarks examiner. And then after 4 years in that position, I had an opportunity to go to the FBI the FBI Academy and become a special agent. That was in 2001. I've been a special agent since then, assigned to initially the Washington field office in Washington, D.C., and then I transferred to San Juan, Puerto Rico for 5 years, and I've been in Denver, Colorado since 2007.
What are your current duties at the FBI?
I'm currently assigned as the senior team leader of the evidence response team for the Denver division.
So could you just detail to the jury what the evidence response team does?
The evidence response team is the FBI's field evidence collection capability that essentially, like a crime scene investigator, is what we would be called in most agencies. ERT is responsible for all evidence collection in FBI investigations, all crime scene investigations, and then we also work with our state and local partners to assist them on crime scenes as well.
Now, on August 25th of the year 2021, did you travel with your team to the location of the body?
Yes, I did.
Now, who drove to this location?
So I drove along with a couple of a special agent and a San Antonio detective and the victim's mother, and then my team drove separately, and I pre-stationed them at Berthoud Pass because we had information that the body recovery was going to be in a location close to Berthoud Pass, which is in the mountains of Colorado. So I pre-staged them there, and then I drove with the victim and those two other law enforcement investigators to try to locate the site of the body recovery.
So, what road travels over this pass?
US Route 40 travels over Berthoud Pass, so we were approaching Berthoud Pass from the south, and we crossed Berthoud Pass, and we're going down in the northbound lanes down the other side, the north side of Berthoud Pass.
So how long did it take you to find the location?
Initially, we went over the pass. The information we had used to look at Google Maps with the description of a pullout where the body had been dumped. And based on Google Maps, we had a pretty good idea of a pullout on the northbound lane of Route 40 that looked like a pretty good candidate. We drove down that northbound lane going down from the pass. And when we passed that location, the victim's mother, who was with us, did not give any verbal indication to stop, so I didn't react. I continued driving until we got down pretty far from the pass to the opening for a ski resort, the Winter Park Ski Resort there. At that point, we had a quick discussion that we had gone too far, so I turned around, drove all the way back up to Berthoud Pass, and then drove back down because that was the direction that we were told they were traveling when they pulled off. And on that second pass, that turnoff that had kind of two lobes, two sections to it that we had noticed on the Google Maps. At that point, the victim's mother indicated to pull over there, so I pulled off the road.
Permission to approach, Your Honor?
Yeah.
Agent DuFrance, I'm going to show you what's previously been identified and admitted into evidence as State's Exhibit. State's Exhibit 10. You recognize this?
Yes, that is the pull-off from the northbound lane of Route 40 that I was describing.
Now, once you get there, what do you do next?
So as soon as I stop the vehicle, I turn it off, I open the door, and I can immediately smell the odor of decomposition. So based on the information that we already had, the victim's mother indicating it was this pullout and that odor, I felt pretty good that we were in the right area. But I wanted to do a quick inspection to see if I could locate the remains before I brought down the full team that we had pre-stage up at Berthoud Pass. So I went over the edge of the pullout. It's a pretty steep slope, but I was able to maneuver my way down that. And the information we had was that the body dump had taken about 10 minutes. So I started working my way down the slope. Since the victim was small, you could presumably carry it pretty far in 10 minutes, but I overshot. And I realized that I had overshot because I could no longer smell the odor of decomposition. So I turned around and started working my way back up the slope, looking for any signs of disturbances, and of course looking for any evidence or human remains. And as I did that, I started picking up the smell of decomposition again, and followed that until I found some human remains of a small human.
And what, describe the location where the remains were?
They were over the edge on a steep slope, and the slope was pretty heavily vegetated, so there was a lot of brush and trees in that area. So it was pretty hard to see it until you were basically right up on top of it.
Permission to approach, Your Honor?
Go ahead.
Special Agent DuFrance, I'm showing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 36, 37,
Yes, sir.
38,
Yes, sir.
39,
Yes, sir.
40, 41,
Yes, sir.
42, and 43.
Okay.
Do you recognize these photographs?
I do. These were photographs that were taken during the crime scene investigation of this body recovery.
Okay, and you have personal knowledge of all the contents of these photographs?
I do.
Do these photographs accurately represent the state of the body and the scene where it was found?
Yes, they do.
State moves to admit 36 through 43.
The running objection is overruled. States 36 through 43 are admitted.
Judge, let me push just 1 second.
Judge, it's not published to the jury, but I'm just going to hand them the photographs.
That's fine.
So, what was the state of the body as you found it that day?
When we found it, the body was pretty heavily decomposed and partially skeletonized.
So, how do you go about removing the body and taking it back up to your vehicles?
Well, before we do anything to disturb the evidence, we're first going to spend quite a bit of time documenting the scene. So we would document, and we did document, with photography, with laser scanning to get the three-dimensional aspects of the scene, and searching that area to make sure there wasn't any other evidence in the area. All that evidence would be documented before anything was moved. And we would make sure that those items were fully documented and preserved in the way that they were found.
And so what tool did you use to document the scene?
So in this case, it was primarily photography, sketching, and laser scanning.
And the laser scanning, we've already heard testimony from Special Agent Verell, how that was done at the scene. What was your role in that?
My role in the laser scanning was that on scene, Special Agent Verell ran the laser scanner and collected the data. Later, I helped in processing that data. So the individual laser scans initially are individual sets of data that have their each individual coordinate system that they're operating off of. And the processing is a process where you take those individual sets of data and you marry them up, and it's called registering, to find where the data sets overlap to make larger data sets.
Permission to approach, Your Honor?
Yeah.
Showing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 44. What do we have here?
We already have 44.
I thought it just went up to 43.
No, Oscar introduced
Oh.
44 through 46.
Okay, let me.
Next one is 47.
Showing you what has been now marked as State's Exhibit 47. Could you tell me what this is?
This is a SanDisk thumb drive.
Okay, and what are the contents of that?
I believe that this contains the products of the scan data.
Okay, so if you were to open that up, what would you see?
On there would be files that are images, which we call orthographic images, which are images taken from the scan data. There's a product called the Scene to Go, which is an interactive product where you can look at a scene initially from above and see kind of a plan view, an aerial view of that scene with icons that indicate where scans were taken, and you can move around that scene by clicking onto those scan locations. And then there's also a fly-through video of that 3D scan data.
Okay, do the contents of these scans, do they accurately reflect the crime scene or the scene of the body as you found it that day?
Yes, they do.
Okay, do you believe they'll assist the jury in understanding where the body was located in relationship to the road?
I do.
Okay. Your Honor, State moves to admit State's Exhibit 47.
Judge, can we get a motion?
Here, Agent DuFrance, could you step down and show the jury the scene to go? You don't have to do all of it, just show them.
Computer?
Oh, the mouse is right there.
Mr. Maury, you can
Oh,
move back and Agent, if you don't mind, as you're clicking on there, walk the jury through what you're clicking on. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I clicked on a file that starts the scene to go application. So that's what's coming up on the screen right now. So I will allow. So we're now in the scene to go application. And so I'm going to click on this, which opens up this specific case that we're talking about here with the body recovery.
so
Sorry.
Agent, what are the dots on that image?
So what we're looking at here, it's very small at the moment, but I can zoom in on it, this is an overhead view of the scan data. What you're looking at in this data is millions of individual points that are recorded. For each scan, there are millions of points, and together it's a very large project. These are all points in 3D. And at the moment, we're just looking down from above, and then these icons indicate locations where a scan was taken. And if you see a circle with a number in it, that's a cluster of scans that are very close together. So it just indicates here, for example, where it says 11, that there are 11 scans that were taken in a very tight cluster around that circle.
Could you just click on one of the red dots?
So by clicking on the dot, it gives you some other options to view the data. So if we click on this one, we're now in a view where you have the scan data, but in addition to taking the scans, it also takes a 360-degree spherical image. So it's like you're standing in the location where that scan was taken, and you can look in different directions. So you can actually click and drag this. So this is up at the edge of the turnoff. Those are some of our trucks there. This is Route 40. And the location of the body recovery was roughly down here. And I'm saying that because I see this cluster of scans. And we took most of the scans around where the body recovery was, because that was obviously the most important part of the scene.
And then there was a fly-through image, I believe, when you initially opened that up. Can you click on that? What are we seeing here?
So this is a fly-through video. So this is taking that three-dimensional data, and we can actually move through it and then record it like a video, as if you were traveling through it in 3D. So should I go ahead and click to
Yes.
play it? Okay. So this will bring up a video. So this is showing the remains. It seems to have paused here. This is a little title screen. Doesn't seem to be playing very well. It's kind of herky-jerky, but you can see some of the remains here. This is the victim's leg. Over here is his head, which is a little hard to make out in this image. And as you can see, there's a lot of little dots in there, and that's all that scan data that's recorded. And it's all 3D data. This doesn't seem to be playing very well. seems to be going a little bit smoother. Where we're coming in, you can see the trees that are around and above the victim's remains. Again, it's a little hard to tell, and even from the photos that you saw, really blended into the terrain.
Now, there's some portions of the image that are, I guess, sort of gray spots. Can you explain why that is?
Yeah, those missing parts of the image are just areas that are essentially shadows where the scanner couldn't see. It's a line of sight instrument, so if it can't see it directly, it's not going to have any data for that. So if there's, for example, a tree that's in the way, what's behind that tree is going to be a void. So it seems to be having problems again.
Do you have any other questions about the video?
No, you can stop it, Special Agent. Go ahead and take a seat. I'm sorry, there's also a diagram there. Could you show the jury the diagram?
So these diagrams are what we call orthographic images. So they're taking, again, that scan data and just kind of taking like a snapshot from that scan data. So this is the first one here. This shows from an angle, you can see this is the side of the mountain on the other side of the highway. This is US 40. Here's the pullout, and then here is the slope and where the remains were found, and then that again from an angled view. This is a close-up view of that. Again, the easiest thing to make out here is the leg. And this is the tree. His head was right near the trunk of that tree. And this is a water bottle that was, a very large water bottle that was recovered near the body. And you can see where that dump site is, again, relative to the road, and this is the edge of the turnoff. And then this is a side view, so taking like a cross-sectional view through that three-dimensional scan data, so you can see the edge of the roadway, or of the turnoff here, and this is the location of the remains. So measuring from the scan data, we know that he was about 44 feet down the slope, which is a vertical drop of about 25 feet and about 36 feet out from the edge of the slope. And this is just a closer up view of that. Again, all this is from the scan data, and his remains are right here, which is indicated with the pink circle.
Now, well, you can go ahead and have a seat. If you were to look over the edge from the cutout, would you be able to view where the body was?
No, from the edge of the turnout, the body was completely obscured by the vegetation.
Now, what do you do once you've documented, you've done the photographs, you've done the survey, what do you do to remove the body?
So we reached out to the Grand County Coroner's Office. We have to work with the Coroner's Office to move human remains. So they responded to the scene as well. And we showed them where the remains were located. It was in a very difficult to reach area. It was pretty steep. And because of the positioning of the remains, the positioning of all the different parts of the remains, which were partially disarticulated, we're interested in keeping them in as close to that orientation as possible and get them to the medical examiner in that orientation. So we improvised kind of an envelope. So they had a semi-rigid board that we could use, and we made kind of a clamshell design. and we used that to slide under the remains and bring the remains onto that, again, trying to keep them in their orientation as much as possible, and then close that envelope on top, and then we taped that down so that there was pressure holding everything in place. And then we used that and the ropes that we had already set up to work our way back up the slope and keep that envelope as level as possible as we brought it up.
Okay, now, where did you take the remains at that point?
So at that point, the remains went into the custody of the Grand County Coroner's Office, and I next saw them 2 days later at the autopsy, which was conducted in Fort Collins, Colorado, at the Larimer County Coroner's Office.
So you were present for the autopsy.
Yes, sir.
Now, at the conclusion of the autopsy, was there a decision made as to where the remains would go at that point?
At the conclusion of the autopsy, I recommended that because his remains were primarily skeletonized, that they should be examined by an anthropologist. So the FBI laboratory has 2 certified forensic anthropologists in Quantico, Virginia. So the deputy coroner agreed that that would be a good next step. So the deputy coroner actually drove the remains to the FBI field office in Denver following the autopsy, and then I took custody of the remains at that point, and they went into FBI evidence to be later shipped to Quantico, Virginia for anthropological examination.
One of the other witnesses testified that some fly larvae were collected at the scene. What did you do with, did you do anything with the larvae?
Yes, there were 2 sets of larvae that were collected. One set was killed on scene to stop any development, and then a second set was collected alive. So all of that evidence went back to the FBI field office in Denver, but the live specimens we kept down in the ERT space. They were provided with a food source, and they were allowed to mature and pupate and emerge as adult flies, so that we could send those adult flies to the entomologist for their examination. And after that had happened, those adult flies were euthanized by placing them into a freezer, and they were sent along with the preserved larvae, the maggots, to the entomologist for examination at Texas A&M University.
Judge, permission to approach?
Yep.
Counsel. Showing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 48.
Yes, sir.
What's on that exhibit?
So this is a photograph taken at the Larimer County Coroner's Office where the autopsy was conducted. And this is that improvised envelope that we had used to collect the victim's remains that I described. This is it before we opened it for the autopsy.
Does that accurately reflect, to depict and reflect the container that you created for the remains of Dominic Aguilar?
Yes, sir, it does.
State moves State's Exhibit 48.
Same objection, Your Honor.
Overruled, states 48 is admitted.
Okay, we have a running objection there, Your Honor.
Permission to assist, Judge?
Yes. If the jurors are finished with the photographs, please put them back with the admitted jurors.
So what are we looking at here?
As I was describing, this is the envelope that we created. So again, it's kind of a clamshell design with a semi-rigid board that we have folded over. And that's what we slid under the remains and put his remains on, and then secured them between the two layers of that clamshell and taped everything closed to secure it.
Now, about how big are these boards?
That's probably about maybe 2.5 to 3 feet square.
Okay, so 2.5 to 3 feet on each side.
Yes.
And you were present when the box was opened at the medical examiner's office?
Yes, sir, I was.
There were a good number of fly larvae or maggots on the corpse at that time.
Yes, sir. During the collection, we did see maggots on and near the body, but when that envelope was opened up, there was a massive number of maggots that were present that had apparently been inside the remains and come out during transport and storage.
And have you've done evidence recovery of human corpses in the past?
Yes, sir.
Is it common for fly larvae or maggots to colonize a human corpse?
Yes, it is.
Ask the witness, Your Honor.
No question, Your Honor.
Thank you, be excused.
Yes,
Thank
Your
you.
Honor.
Thank you, Agent DuFrance.
Thank you, ma'am.
Any other witnesses today at the state?
No, Your Honor.
Let me see the attorneys up here, please. Recess, sorry, we're going to recess for today. Tomorrow, I expect that we will work the morning part. Police report, be ready to get started at 9:30. Pack a lunch, just in case that we go past the lunch hour. I can't imagine that we're going to be here here too late after lunch if we are here, but just be prepared for that. I would like to give you an early start to your holiday weekend, so we'll see you here tomorrow at 9:30. You remain under the same instructions, and I'm going to just gently remind you, those instructions do include that you're not to discuss any evidence until your case is yours to deliberate, and we're not there yet, okay? So please